Hello everyone. Very good evening, good afternoon, good morning to all my students. I'm very happy to welcome each and every one of you in today's Montessori training class that we have. We hope you're also excited to delve into the fascinating world of language development, wherein we are working on handwriting and writing exercises, and how could we incorporate that into our classes. So today's session is dedicated to exploring the essential parts of language development. We have seen how language of oral language development and writing language development, it is going to intertwine with the art of writing, correct? So writing is something that we need to be working on. So as future educators, understanding the language acquisition, making sure that the children are naturally writing becomes our fundamental basic teaching and learning in our preschools. So as teachers and parents, it becomes your responsibility to create a dynamic and enriching learning environment for all your kids and students of your classes. So what do we do? Today's agenda, we're going to work again on the language development. It is all with respect to our writing language exercises. It comes under written language practices, correct? So we're going to see what is your role as a teacher to foster this particular skill. Do I maintain a strategy to help my children to work on writing? Definitely yes. In case if I have a strategy, what is the right age that I'm going to start? Could also be one of my exercise. Now, do I work on any practical exercises? Does writing also have some of the practical materials in my classroom? So can I promote the practical activities for written expression using Montessori tools is the next question that we will be talking about. So every time that the teacher or the parent is introducing writing to children, can I also incorporate multisensory techniques in my language becomes your overall learning, right? So as your teacher and guide, so I will be taking you through all these topics today. And towards the end of the day, you will be more expertised and you will definitely have a lot of hands-on exercises to help your child engage better, to help your child interact better, to have better hands-on coordination, and you will be able to collaborate different materials to introduce writing to your children. Now, don't you think that we are empowering children and making a positive impact towards writing, which was something which was considered to be challenging, right? So remember, you have to be active. Only when the teacher is active, when the parent is active, the children will also be active. So your active participation is important. The more you create curiosity in children when you're teaching and training, that's when the child will also start getting connected with you, right? So that becomes your part of your learning. So thank you for your time, for joining me on time for your professional growth and Montessori education. So I have to really say, every day remind yourself that you are doing an amazing job. Each day is a good learning for all of you. Every day you're learning bit by bit and you are able to serve children in a very nice way. And get ready to explore and learn this exercise. So let's get started with today's exercise. We work on sorting symbols, very basic conceptuals for all of us to actually work on sorting. Now, when I talk about sorting, what do you generally mean by sorting? I have some letters, I have to sort that letters. As simple as that. I have to sort the letters. Now, the question for me is, will I be using my Montessori material to sort? Definitely yes. What are my Montessori materials, which I'm going to give it to my children to sort? Second question is, based on what will I sort the exercises? Why should I be sorting the exercises is something that we would be seeing in this exercise. So first thing, to sort my letters, I would use a material called sandpaper letter. Okay, so we have seen in the previous classes also, you get two kinds of sandpaper letters, uppercase sandpaper letters, lowercase sandpaper letters. We also get sandpaper letters in cursive. We've also seen cursive letters. As I said before, totally depends on what is your school using. If your school is introducing cursive writing, you have to adapt, making sure your child is writing in cursive. If the schools are adapting to print fonts, you have to go with the print fonts. Now, in case if I am working on uppercase letters, or if I'm introducing capital letters to my child, I will be using sandpaper letter. What are my parameters to sort? I will sort based upon the lines and strokes. What are the different lines? I can have a standing line, a sleeping line, a curved line. We all agree on this? All your letters is a combination of your standing, sleeping, slanting, curved lines. These are the 4 different lines. Now you have understood about this as a teacher, but should you also show it to children? What is a standing line? What is a sleeping line? What is a slanting line? What is a curved line? So when you talk about slanting, you have your right slanting and left slanting. You have your right open curve, your left open curve. So depending on all these lines and curves, you will begin to introduce the concept of categorizing the letters. So that means I have to now start identifying and group these letters which has only standing and sleeping. Can we do that? What are the letters which has only standing and sleeping? Now, okay, much before doing this, I can still have many things. See, I can bring sandpaper letter. I can do a lot of tracing, multisensory tracing with my sand trace. I can introduce for the child to actually write a particular letter. Not only I am introducing the stroke for a child, I am also introducing and helping them to review the letter and the letter sound, which further helps me to sort the activity because I am very much aware about the sounds and the patterns now. Right? Now the child has mastered with lines. We are only taking standing line and sleeping line. Now if I take standing or sleeping line, can I now start sorting the letters depending upon how each letter is formed? Say for example, letters like T, letters like L, letters like H, E, F, they all have what?
Standing and sleeping line.
Standing and sleeping line, correct? Now, what about if I have anything which is related to my, what I could say, sleeping line? I can have letter E. What if I have curves? Okay, there's a typing mistake. A C doesn't come there. It comes under a curved line. Now, letters with slanting line. Letters with slanting lines, it will be A, your
M,
W,
N,
your N, then X. See, they all have slants.
Y,
Y, that can
Y,
also be a part of it.
Z
Yes.
also.
Z,
Yes. So,
T,
yes. So you have to help the child to explore the types of lines. So you go step by step, letter by letter. So I can pick the letters which has similar strokes. For example, T and L. I can start at the beginning because it has just got one straight line and one sleeping line. Slowly I go with letter E. So I have straight, sleeping, sleeping, sleeping line. Then I can go with the letter F. I can go with the letter H. Why always we introduce T and L at the beginning is the line is either at the top or at the bottom. So it becomes easy for a child rather than starting with H, because again the child will have to find the midpoint and then again draw a line over there, right? So all those things are stages which helps the child to explore the type of line. So this is related to your sandpaper letter. But are there any other letters that I can actually work? Definitely yes. Based upon the colors also, I should be able to sort. Now, if you see sandpaper letters, if I arrange everything sequentially from A to Z, I should still be able to differentiate. All my vowels are in color blue. My consonants are in my color pink, right? So I should be able to give the differences between my vowels and consonants. Now, the second material that we would be using to sort the letters is your movable alphabet. Now, when I talk about movable alphabet, I will be able to move every letter, right? Whatever is my construction, I am actually moving my letter. So I have a lot of hands-on exercises already. There's a lot of engagement which is actually happening because the child is learning to make letters, sorry, to make words, to make sentences. There's already a lot of learning which is actually happening for a child when they're doing this exercise. Now, coming down to how do I sort this movable alphabet, we would be focusing on something which is called as the sky, root, and grass. Please note down, we will be able to differentiate between what is a sky letter, what is a root letter, or what is a grass letter? What is the grass letters? The letters which will touch the center two lines. Now just consider you have a 4-line book. 4-line book, the top line is red, bottom line is red. The center two lines are blue color, correct? So any letter which only touches your center two lines, that becomes your grass letters. The letters which touch the top line, that is a top red line, that is your sky because it is above. So it touches your sky. So we can say it as sky letters. The letters which is touching bottom, like say if I have a letter P, the letter P is coming down, the stem of the letter is coming down, so it's falling down, right? So I can either call them as fall letters, some of them can also term them as root letters. This is just for the child to visually imagine where the letter is. There's nothing as a naming convention, it is just for you to give them an understanding, wherein we work on certain visual aids to help the child to understand and get the idea. Now, how do I work on that is I can have any display letters. See, if I have in my class, I can always have my display. I can say that whatever are the letters which is only touching the center two lines, those are my grass letters. Letters like C, O, I, E. Now you can also see letters like C, O, then E, A. They all have similar patterns also. They begin with that curve. So you can group these letters also to introduce. Like letter C can be introduced. Then letter A can be introduced. Correct? Then letter O can be introduced. They all are beginning with the same stroke. They're all beginning with the same stroke, isn't it? So you can also be able to classify depending upon the curve of that particular letter. Then we also have letters which has a combination of slants. You can also include them over here. So find out the good combinations of these grass letters also, and you group them accordingly and you start introducing to children to write. But they have to remember you can't write anywhere. You should know where that letter actually belongs to. So that is one of the stage that we introduce when a child is around 4.5 years of age, because he would have a good visual perception. He would have a good hand-eye coordination to write the letters within a dedicated space. Now in my presentation too, I go for my sky letters. The letters which touch my top line. It is my L, K, then letter B, letter D, H, T, F, even letter I can consider because a dot of the I is on the top line. So this is my sky letter. Can I have my bottom letters? That is the root letters. Now if you see, those letters are falling down and they are touching the bottom line. So that's the reason we call them as root letters. Once the teacher the teacher teaches them and the child understands about these three conceptuals, it becomes easy for me to introduce with the material. So what in Montessori we do is, we ask the child to bring the movable alphabet material and we ask them to segregate the letters based upon the grass, sky and this. So how do? I go sequentially only. Say A, so it's 2 lines, so I keep A. Then B comes. B is not touching the 2 lines, it is touching the top line. So I go to the next line and I keep C, top line. So 2 lines, so I keep C. D touches the top line, so I go to the next line. Then E, 2 lines. F, top line. G, bottom line. Now, if you see each of this section, the teacher would say the first section is for grass letters. The second section is for sky letters. The third section is for the root letters or the fall letters. You can either say it as tall letters, fall letters, or sky letters or root letters also. Now you have sequentially segregated. You have classified. You have categorized the letters based upon placements and position. Okay, you have sorted based upon how a letter is being placed and positioned on a Montessori mat. Okay, so this is one exercise. But what if the teacher does not want them to do that three lines? Because this is the next step. Now you ask the children to do everything construction in an alphabetical order. Now the child should know visually, should the letter go up or should the letter come down? Right? So the child is now understood. Even if there are lines, if there are no lines, even if you give them a blank sheet, the child should be able to take the letter up or get the letter down depending on their position. So this has to be your ultimatum. Okay, so you have to make sure that the child reaches this particular stage of development when we are trying to introduce writing to the child. Now, what am I reinforcing? Sing songs on letters, reinforce the graphical representation, teach them how the directions are being involved in writing a letter. Okay, because the directions of the letter are also very important. If you don't follow directions, how a letter is formed, what happens? The speed of the handwriting goes down. When the child comes in UKG, when you give them dictation of words, dictation of sentences, you ask them to write a paragraph, the speed at which the child writes becomes difficult if the directions are not learnt properly at the earlier ages. So always keep reinforcing the sounds of the letters. Now you can work as like what are the materials that you need. So if you are using movable alphabets to sort the letters, you need to have a large cloth. We call this as a felt cloth. You get it as a letter representation cloth also. So you can have this. Now this will give you lines so that the child is able to work on it, and you should be able to place the letters accordingly. Clear, everybody? Now the sizes you can choose. You want to have a large size mat or a medium size mat, depends on it. But most of them, they would prefer a large mat because we would also be reusing the same thing for constructing our sentences. Okay, so this is our presentation. Why do we do this exercise? We want the children to have the awareness about how the letters are shaped. We want them to have an awareness of how to position, where to position the letters. We want them to write correctly when I'm giving them lines. And at the same time, the child should be able to know and understand the letter, its sound, and the way it needs to be written. Can I have some error of control? Definitely yes. If the child has not learned sandpaper letters, visually, if the child does not know how a letter looks like, it's more or less difficult for a child to sort the letters based upon lines and strokes. Sometimes the teachers also will not introduce the material in a rightful way. They also might not introduce. So you can't expect everything from a child to learn on their own. Sometimes even the parent is not introduced. Correct? So all these things can be a cause for failure of writing it effectively. Now, what is the age? We always begin this at 4.5 years because that is when the child would have gained a lot of great muscular memory, and he would also have retention ability to the utmost level, better hand-eye coordination, and the child will be able to relate it to the positions and the placements of every letter and their positions. So this is one simple exercise that we do in our classrooms. So it's very, very essential when you give them the three-letter words, four-letter words. It's more important that the children are introduced to four-line writing. Once they master this four-line writing, in the next exercise is what we see. Now you would formally introduce writing. So in the previous class, what did we introduce? We introduced more about chalkboards. We introduced pre-writing skills like metal insets and all of that. And then we got into writing it onto paper. To write on paper, we predominantly used four-line writing. We used two materials, that is my sandpaper letter and movable letter. Sandpaper letter, I can use uppercase and lowercase. But if I'm using my uppercase, I will sort the letters based upon the lines and strokes. Straight line, sleeping line, slanting line, open curve, left open curve, right open curves, right? So I should be able to give you the differences of all these lines and patterns. Then when I move to my movable alphabets, I should be able to sort the letters based upon the position and placement of these letters when I'm writing in my four line. So that's when I sort what is a grass letter, what is a sky letter, and what is my root letter. Okay, so this is one such simple exercise that we would be able to work, and such a beautiful material, I could say, and a lovely exercise for all of us to actually work on, helping our children to work on that. Okay, so when you start working, in a very dedicated way, and your children will definitely have a lot of confidence. Okay, when a teacher introduces these concepts in a rightful way, the child is so confident because he knows. And it might be a little tricky. So, what is a good thing? Always take a print of that banner, put it into your class wall. Every time that the child has a difficulty, the teacher can always say, look there. So let a hedge. Is it a tall or fall? So the child will be able to relate it and work. The more confident that the child is, the child will be able to gain lot of respect towards himself, that he is able to do that exercises. So that's how they explore, that's how they learn, that's how they grow and discover something new in their classes. And that is going to help our children to work on a amazing skill of writing. Okay, so writing is not at all difficult for children, but in case if the teachers and parents introduce it in the rightful way, it becomes an inspirational session for all our children, as they love writing. Okay, so that was one of our quick material. Let's see the other one. Okay, so the next one, please note down what is there for today. After using writing using or sorting using these two exercises, we're still talking about writing, right? So we spoke, what do we write in the last class? We said, like, I'm going to be writing many things, correct? But it is also important that we write somewhere. Now, where do we write? Do we write on wall? We don't write on wall. Do we write on chalkboard? Not that efficient and effective every time. It's not easy for me also to all the time to write on my books and everywhere, right? So what do I do here? I choose my medium as paper. From now on, I would ask my children to work on writing on paper. When I start working on my paper, I have to also choose what kind of paper. Just like how we had chalkboard, now you will also be choosing the types of paper. Types of paper, I can have an unruled paper, a blank paper. I can have a single lined paper, correct? I can have a double lined paper. Have you seen the double lined books? We generally use it for Hindi and Kannada, right? So you have a double line. We also have papers and books which comes with 4 lines. So the type of paper is also important. So you need to be having this. Now, can I have a combination? No combinations here. Full sheet should be of the same thing. You can't have half this, half this. No. It has to be a full sheet, either blank, either single line, double line, 4 line, or math book. We call it as a grid paper. Okay, to introduce math conceptions to our child. Now, question is, I have chosen the writing paper, and this has to be a blank paper, not that somebody has written something. We have to always keep a blank paper. Now, what will my child write? So they have to write something. So I can have a script, I can have words, or I can collect some pictures from my magazines, anything, right? So I have to take all of that and I keep it. Now, what is my next thing that I need to be having? I need to also have supplies. So I need to have eraser, sharpener, lead pencils, correct? So I need to have that also. Now, what if the teacher also asks me to draw something in color and then pin it up? Right? So I need to always keep some crayons and color pencils or my art supplies, whatever has been required. Now, coming down to these exercises, what are the different things I introduce to a child? In my exercise 1, I have to first introduce the child to write a single letter. Just a single letter. What paper I will use? The choice is mine. I can use a blank paper. I can give it in big font. I can use a grid paper. I can ask the child to write the letter multiple times. I can give a double lined paper and I can ask the child to write small letters on that, individual letters. I can give a 4 line sheet and I can ask the child to write both upper and the lower cases. So the child should know the position and placement. Choice of writing is up to me. But in my exercise 1, I would always work on individual letters. Only individual letters. One time, two time, one page, two page, up to the teachers, up to the parent. Okay. Now when the child is comfortable writing single letters, what do we write? We show them how to write a word. Next thing is we show them how to write a word. Now to write a word, should I have something, a modified script? The letters which are evenly spaced, or how do I write? I need to show them the idea because the child just does not know. Now I can say, this is my word. Now the child will also know how is the position. So sometimes people also give cards like this. So it gives them that visual representation of how to I write. So some of the teachers, they print words like this. So they know whether it is touching my top line, or is it my grass line, or is it my lower line. So this is for the beginners. Now what kind of font I use does also matter. So I have to also carefully write, am I using print font or am I using cursive? Okay. Now again, am I using 2 lines or 3 lines or 4 lines? Okay. So all these things would actually matter when I'm using my words. Moving to the next thing, I would also show them how to make sentences. Now when I'm making sentences, if we are writing on the chalkboard, every word needs to be separated by a palm distance. But if you are writing on paper, every word needs to be separated by a finger distance. So you need to tell the children that you need to separate every word by putting your little finger or the pinky finger, right? So every time that they write, you need to put a finger and you have to ask them. Okay, so you can write and complete your sentences. So you are introducing for a child to write in your second exercise word. Okay, that is only word. Now in third exercise, in exercise 3, I would ask the child to write a word and I would also ask the child to draw a picture. Okay. Now say for example, if my word is egg, I ask the child to draw. This is my exercise 3. So there is an association between writing words and drawing a picture. Or you could also say draw a picture. The child is like, oh, teacher is asking me to draw something. And then you can ask, okay, color the picture. Then you ask them, write the word. So what happens? Mentally, the child is never feeling I have to write words, but the child is more happier to draw something and color something. So later you can ask them to label that picture. So this is also one thing that we can also do it in your exercise 3. Exercise 4 is where you will be able to work on your phrases. Now what is phrases? When you combine your noun with an article. Your article is your a, your an and the. Correct? So when you combine your noun with an article, it becomes a phrase. For example, now I have an egg. So you write a phrase. Since there are 2 words, you have to separate using a finger distance when the child is writing on my paper. So this is my exercise 4. Exercise 5, I make sentences. Okay. Exercise 6, I can make paragraph or I can write a short story. Exercise, you can go on and on. You can ask them to write a poem. You can ask them to write a rhyme or a jingle or any creative writing that the child should be able to write. The purpose of this exercise, why I introduce is I want children to get used to writing on paper. I want children to get used to writing using the tool pencil. Okay, my entire sole motive is to make sure that they are writing and writing. So I would also encourage a lot of story writing. It's not only words and other things, whatever that the child has in their mind. It could be their thoughts and ideas, the child should be able to express it. So creative expression is something that we will have to be looking forward. Clear, everyone? So that becomes our major purpose of doing the simple exercise of introducing all that writing onto paper. Can I have any difficulty? Do I have control of error here? Definitely yes. Where can a child go wrong? The child will be able to go wrong in positioning where the letter should go up. Whether the letter should go up or down, or should the letter stay in two of the middle lines. So that is there. That means the child has got that inability to write on their own. Sometimes the child still will not be able to figure out whether the child has written wrong. Correct? We might identify it as wrong, but the child might not realize that the child has written wrong. So they don't have the ability to evaluate themselves, whether it is right or wrong. So what becomes our task now? You always have to put them onto doing a self-check. As soon as they say, Divya ma'am, I'm finished, mama, I'm finished, daddy, I'm finished writing, you ask them to do an evaluation by themselves. Cross-check all the spellings, cross-check the indentation, cross-check whether you have given the space between two words. Let the child do. And if they say, yes, they have all done it, then again you reassure. You're very sure about that? Can I cross-check? Yes. Then is what you take that responsibility to check. And if at all, if you find any mistakes, that becomes your correction practice. Okay. So all these things will become your writing on paper exercises. And that's how you get into introducing writing to children, introducing to writing on paper. One of the challenge we always face when it comes down to writing is the child will always have a confusion. Should I use a capital letter, a small letter? They always mix up letters. We have always seen that. Yes, no? Anytime that I'm giving some dictations and other things, the child will always have jumbled up letters. Even if you ask them to write their own name, sometimes it will have a combinations of uppercase and the lowercase letters. So those becomes your challenges. To work on that, you separately work with children and you start introducing what gets a capital letter. How do I introduce capital letters to my children? Right? So that becomes your big lesson, I could say. So next, note down the next exercise for you is like, working on punctuations. Okay. You're now introducing punctuations to children. In that, we would also be learning about what gets capital, when to use a period, right? All of that. Okay. So now we are going to be working on what all will have a capital letter. Can somebody say? Sorry?
Proper noun.
I'm listening.
A name of a place.
Names,
Yes?
place, proper noun.
Huh.
Names.
So names would definitely get, yeah. Then
A name of a place.
Name of a place, country.
Abstract noun,
Of a place.
proper noun,
Proper noun.
Proper noun, common noun, collective noun, abstract
Hmm.
noun.
Okay. That's a big list. Okay. So all those things would be able to get a capital letter, right? So first of all, we need to also we don't get into a lot of noun forms over here and give them the differences. We now begin by introducing to the children like what are the different things that can actually get a capital letter. So I can go with names of peoples, names of pets, not objects and other things. Initially, to begin with, name of a person I can actually have. Say, for example, in case if I have in my class, I can say like, Uma. So it's a name of a person, right? So what is the first letter of Uma? It is U. U, it is a capital letter. Sonali, S is a capital letter. So always begin with the names of children in your own class. And you can always say, children, every time that you write your name, because you're very special, you're very unique, the first letter of yours should always be capital letter. So we got the first thing, what gets a capital letter? The name of a person. Then later I say you're very unique, it is only you. So that's the reason it becomes your proper noun and it is not common noun. So we are not talking about proper and common nouns at all. Okay. Now say for example, in case if I have my pet, because see, children will be able to connect with these things very quickly. Now say if I have a pet and if my pet name is Max, so he's also very special. He also has a name and the first letter of my pet will also start with a capital letter. Correct? So that is also there. And now we are also working Monday to Sunday, right? So there are 7 days in a week. So you can always say days of the week. The first letter of days of the week will also get a capital letter.
Months of the year.
Yes, months of the year will also get a capital letter. What else?
Vegetable names, ma'am.
Vegetable
All the
names.
cities,
Yes.
all the
Yes.
cities,
Yeah,
all the
cities
food
will get.
names.
Yes. So
Name
names of
of-
places, names of people, names of pets. And in case if you're referring to your own self, I is always capital, right? So we never put in that into your small letters. So this would all be there. So you go stage by stage and you start introducing children about what all can get a capital letter. So we have to be helping the child to understand the differences between capital and the lowercase letters. Now, before you introduce what gets a capital, you need to make sure that the child has a good association between an uppercase and a lowercase. The child should know both these letters say letter A, letter B, and they have the sounds A and B. The child should know the name is same, the sound is same, but one is uppercase, one is lowercase. So do I have to introduce this material? Definitely yes. So I can take sandpaper letter individually. I say this is uppercase A, this is lowercase A. Then I also have another sandpaper material wherein I will have my upper and a lowercase together. Together it will be. Okay. So this is one thing that we can always start introducing to children. So I will have 26 cards. Okay. This one, the first set is for uppercase. Second set is for lowercase. The third set will have a combination of your upper and the lowercase. So when I'm introducing what? Upper and lowercase letters. So this is your next material. Okay. So uppercase and the lowercase material. So when I'm introducing this, it will be a box, or I can say it has 3 sets of letters in a box. The first set is for upper, the second set is for lower, or I can say first set is lower, second set is upper, third set is going to be a combination of your upper and your lowercase. So now the child has got the understanding about learning these exercises together. Now, what is my next thing? What is my next thing? Now is what I have to introduce my capital letters, right? So what do I do here? Now we have learned the first letter of any sentence starts with a capital letter, right? It starts with a capital letter. Yes. So I have a pet. He is a dog. And I can say the dog likes to eat bone. Okay. So if that is my sentence, okay. Okay, everybody, this is my sentence.
Okay.
Yeah. So is there any mistake in this?
Yes, ma'am.
What is the mistake?
Beginning
Nice.
of them,
The starting letter is start with
East.
T is capital.
Okay, so the starting letter T is wrong. Okay, then
Bones.
Full stop is not there.
Dog.
full stop is not
Noun.
there.
Period.
Yeah, full stop is not there.
And noun dog. Dog.
No, only the proper noun I said. If it's proper noun, if I'm referring to my dog's name as Max, I'll say Max likes to eat bone, then I will go with this. This is common noun, so I might not be using a capital letter, right? So I have to have, so everybody's got this, right? So what I have to do is like when I'm introducing capital letters, periods, Period is nothing but full stop for my child. I should have these cards. Now, what cards are they? They are some sentence cards. Okay. Now, what I will have to have is one sentence. There will be multiple duplicates. Multiple duplicate sentences will be there. Dog likes to eat bone. Same sentence will be there. Same sentence will be there. So I will have multiple duplicates of it. In one only, everything would have got corrected. So the child will have to figure out which sentence is the right one. Okay, so you're able to get me that? So you have to make multiple sets. Okay, so let me write and show it to you. Let me write and show it to you. Give me a moment. Okay, now take a look. Okay, the same thing in case if I take the dog likes to eat bone. So I have my first slip. You will see in the first slip, the first letter is capital. It also has a full stop. See the second one, the first letter is capital, but there is no full stop or period. The third one, the first letter is not having capital. So which one is the right one? First, second, or third? The first one is correct. So what do I work here like? Yes. So whenever we work on materials required for these, you need to have duplicate sets of cards. And you have to carefully keep them in a plastic envelope. And I consider this to be as my set A because I am just introducing to the child that the beginning letter is going to be the capital letter and ending of each sentence will have to end with full stop. What is the other thing that you noticed? Did you notice that the full stop is of a different color?
Yes.
Everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
What is that color with?
Red.
Green.
Red color. So
Red.
these punctuations, whatever we have it, we have to be introducing that with our color red. Okay, so the end of the sentence, you need to put a period and that will be in your red color. Moving to the next particular thing. Now, in case if I have to type in my name, I also said children have this difficulty. They might jumble up having their capital letters coming in front of their name or in between of their name, right? So we need to be helping the child to correct all of that. And whatever is the right one, I should be able to work on it. To help, I can also tell children, look at the first letter, it is colored in red color. To just whenever you're introducing, you can always introduce that the first letter of your name should always be in capital letter. So we reinforce that exercise to the child. Same thing goes when you add on to phrases, right? So the dog, the dog, the dog, the dog. So whatever is the right one, you pick up that particular label. And this is how you slowly get into introducing a full stop. So phrase is the shortest sentence. When you combine a noun with an article, your phrase will also be a shortest sentence. So you can also take help of those label cards to introduce full stop. Moving to the next one in my set B, what I would have is, I would have sentence which will have to illustrate commas. So I can take the same sentence from my set A, and if I have two sentences which I have to be joining, say I am sick today could be sentence 1, I will be on leave, that could be my sentence 2. When I'm joining these two sentences, I can actually use a conjunction to pause the first statement so that my second statement has got a lot of meaning. Sorry, so that my first statement will have a lot of meaning. I have to pause when I'm stopping and I have to give the reason in my second statement. If anyone replies me, I am not coming today, will I approve? I will always ask why, what was the reason why you're not attending. But if somebody says, Divya ma'am, I'm sick today and I will be on leave, I will always reply, take care. So whenever you are sending messages, you need to mention the reason also. So always. So when you have multiple sentences combined together, we can use conjunctive words. And we would be using to illustrate that with comma. And comma will also be in color red. So should I also construct that with duplicate cards? Definitely yes. The child should be able to figure out which sentence is right, which sentence is not right. Next, when I'm introducing questioning words to the child, you will also be introducing in your set C. Okay, so in your set A, you will introduce period and capital letter. Set B, you will introduce comma. Set C, you will introduce question mark.
Question mark.
Why are you late? How old are you? What happened? Give any questions, okay? And the child should be able to give you an answer to those questions. That covers your material on what I could say is on punctuations and what gets a capital letter, uppercase and the lowercase letters. Clear, everybody?
Yes.
Have I
Yes,
made
ma'am.
myself okay with this? Okay. So moving to the next thing, we're going to be working on something very interesting. It's called transcriptions. Please note down, everyone. We're working on something called as transcriptions. Now, what are transcriptions? I removed the slide, but at least whatever to the knowledge you have.
Writing script.
Any transcription. See, for example, I'm talking now, right? So am I having an oral language conversation or written language conversation? Oral language
Oral
conversation, right? So when I want to transcript, everybody is making notes.
Yes.
So what are we doing? We are converting. So transcription is nothing but it is referring to a process of converting my spoken language into written language. All of you are making notes, right?
Yes.
So when everything is written, or if you're using computer, you're typing in, or when it is typed, it stays there forever, and we will be able to recall. Now, what if I'm teaching something interesting? And if you're attentively listening to it, you can also work on technology these days. You need not write. People do also have recorders, right? So you can also record. So you can record the video of our session. We can record my audio of our session because it would actually translate my audio into text, translate my audio into speech. We do have technology which actually can convert. Definitely yes, right?
Yes.
So transcriptions can be used in various fields. We are not talking about that. So transcription means it's just like whatever I'm orally talking, it needs to be converted into some written language and it has to be stored somewhere so that it is helpful for my other generations. So in that way, if at all, if I'm using, can I use my transcriptions in my schooling? If I say schooling, can I use transcriptions in my preschooling? The teachers are talking and how do I introduce that? Very, very nice way the author has told. Definitely, yes. You should be using transcriptions in your classes. What you can do is, whenever you're working on your transcriptions, you can use some cards. These cards needs to be laminated. Why? Because, why? It's an important piece of information that the children are going to be using it, right? And what our teachers used to always start our day with? Thought for the day. How many of you had that in your schools? As soon as you come, that was on rotation. We go and we write one beautiful saying thought for the day, right? Till end of the day, nobody used to erase it. So that was the thought for the day. Some of the schools do have the habit of putting it onto the main bulletin board. As soon as people start walking in, they read what is the thought for the day, that message, and they can come in. So in my transcription, I can have cards in which I might write a beautiful saying. I might write some saying or a beautiful line from any literature. I can write any beautiful saying or a line from a literature. Yes? Can we have some examples on that? Can we have some examples on that?
Beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder.
Very good. Okay.
Perseverance is the key to success.
Definitely, yes. So we are picking up the lines from literature. Those are simple sentences, right? So you can always have such things. And when the children are asking you to explain, you can also explain. In case if that is becoming little difficult for you to work around on the beautiful line or saying from the literature, you can also write a rhyme in that card. And the child picks up that card, it's like twinkle, twinkle, little star. Oh, how I wonder what you are. The child is able to also relate to what is written. If they are not able to read what is this there, you can mark a star there. So the child understands, oh, it's a poem on the twinkle, twinkle, little star. I can also have a transcription card which is relating to some short poems. I can also have a poem card. Now, what if I want to introduce some riddles to children? Okay, can we have some riddles, please? Any riddle? For example, I have a face, but no eyes. I have hands, but no arms. Who am I?
Clock.
Very good. Then I can say like I am full of holes. I can hold water. Who am I? I'm full of holes and I can hold water.
Tap.
Ice tray.
No. How is an ice cube full of holes? If a tap is full of holes, how it will hold?
That's it.
Sponge.
Sponge, yes. Okay, then I'm tall. Um, I'm tall when I'm young. I'm short when I'm growing old.
Candle.
Very good. So we are burning. That's very good. So
My skin.
Huh?
I won't cry, but you might.
I couldn't hear you.
Remove my skin. I won't cry, but you might.
Onion.
Onion.
Yes.
Onion.
Ma'am, what is yours but mostly used by others?
What is yours and mostly used by others?
Yes.
Name.
Our name, ma'am.
Yes.
Our name.
Name.
Name. Okay, what is
Yes.
ours but
Name.
mostly used by
Yes,
others?
yeah,
Our
others.
name. Yeah. So you can always have riddles. So always introduce these simple riddles in your classes and see the child will start loving it. You should have it as cards. No, you start reading out the card. You pick a card, you read a card. You pick a card, you read a card. These are called conversation cards in your classes. So you can definitely have, put them into a small reading file or a folder and have these cards sorted every time. So they are all under your transcription shelf. Your transcriptions can have multiple things. When I pick up a rhyme, say twinkle, twinkle, the child will have to stand up and sing that song. When I pick up hickory dickory, the child will have to sing that particular song. So it is indirectly we are working on encouraging the child to read and say and working on language development. But see how beautifully the author is also asking everybody to get introduced to reading, writing. Correct? So this is one part of it. I can have a riddle. Now, uh, we always work on stories, right? So we always work on story. And say if you have read any story to your child and if there is a favorite line in that story, you can also mention that line. The crow started to pick pebbles one by one. Which story is that?
Crow. The
Crow
thirsty
story.
crow.
The thirsty crow. So any one line from the story you can pick as a card and the child will have to continue narrating that story from there onwards. So I can have a significant line from a story, but that story should be known to a child. I cannot pick anything which I have not introduced. That's a prerequisite. So you should choose lines from a story which the child knows. Can I have words from a familiar song? Had a great fall.
Humpty Dumpty sat on.
Humpty Dumpty sat
I
on.
can give one word or a sentence. Okay, so I can say a sentence from a familiar song. I can have this. Okay,
We all
so when we
all
go out of our house, does our parents, our well-wishers, caretakers say us some homely sayings? Do we always hear them? What are the homely sayings? Say end of the day, you're trying to give a call to your mom. Okay, and what does your mother say? We're not talking about complaints, you complaining about some day and she complaining
Take
about
it.
something. No,
are you taking
something
your
which is genuinely about caring for you. What does she say?
How are
are
you?
you taking your medicines on time?
Are you taking your medicines on time? Okay.
Yes.
Food also comes
No
under.
questioning, no questioning.
Okay.
Positive words like homely saying. Take your medicines on time so that you are healthy. Eat on time,
Yes.
sleep on time.
Yes.
What
Sleep
else?
well.
Sleep well. Yeah. Shafali, what does your mom say?
My
Mom,
mom
dad, your
said,
whoever is your caretaker. Yeah.
always keep smiling.
Always have a smiley
Smile.
face, so always smile. Yeah, that's nice. Rupam, Aparna,
Wake up daily, early.
who's that? Who's that?
I'm
Usha
Okay,
ma'am.
Usha ma'am. Wake up early, yeah? Okay. Who's saying Usha ma'am to you now? You have all the freedom. Usha, she has got both her kids married and she's all free. She has her grandkids. Who's
Yes.
asking you to wake up early, Usha ma'am?
Always we are waking up early only, ma'am.
No, just jokes apart. Okay, we definitely have some kind of homely sayings. Most of us we always have. So you can always ask children, what did your mama or papa say when you came to school? So they might say, listen to your teacher, don't disturb your friends. Can that be a homely saying for our children? So
Yes.
it comes like, follow the class rules, do your homework, listen to your class, eat healthy, complete your lunch box, don't forget your things, bring back all your belongings, correct? And
Helping
then close
hand.
your water bottle, don't wet your bag. So those would become a homely saying to mothers. You ask children, what does your mother say? And what you can do, teachers, is spontaneously you have to write those in the label cards. Write spontaneously in the label cards, and when you have those conversations with your children in your classes, you can always say, Harsha's mom always says him to finish the lunch box, right? Children, we have to finish the lunch box. And then you can always say, okay, Shafali ma'am is always asking the children to cut nails. You need to cut your nails, and she will check on every Monday, so cutting nails is important. And then Rekha ma'am is asking us to wash both the hands. Washing hands is very important. So those are homely sayings that you can introduce to your children. Okay, so if you have them as label cards, and if these transcriptions become a part of your circle time daily, the child will start learning so much on language. So our only humble effort is like, how these transcriptions can actually help our children. It can be a good example for reading practices, conversations, and other things, but it is also helping me to get a lot of information. So when the child is able to converse and speak well, they get a lot of vocabulary and they would be able to write. They will be able to write. Now, if Uma asks me also, write something what your mother told you, the child should be able to write. My mother said to complete my classwork, because the child knows to converse. Maybe the spellings are incorrect, but at least the child should be able to make sentences and simple sentences when they are between 4.5 to 5.5 or 4.5 to 6 years of age. So that's the beautiful thing about transcriptions. And every time that you include transcriptions, what we have always noticed is the children go wrong in spellings, right? They go wrong in spellings, correct?
Yes,
We
ma'am.
always go wrong in spelling because this is where we always struggle. Now, what I do over here for children is whenever they are working with spellings, I can have my card. The cards can be individual letters, where the child picks up that card, he starts copying those cards and he starts writing. Or I can have a card which will have list of words. It will have list of words. The child picks up that card and the child starts copying it. It can have sentences, it can have paragraph, it can have a beautiful poem, it can have a rhyme, anything. But what is important for me is like, these are samples of writing which my teacher has given me. The sample of writing can be in print font or it could be in capital font. It doesn't matter for me. What I need to do is, I need to read each one of it, face it down, then write. The first word is cat.
Yes.
I learn that word, I face it down and I write myself. Slowly, you will teach children to read 2 words together, then flip it. 3 words together, then flip it. Okay, so what happens? The memory of the child is also increasing. Correct?
Can you
So
please
the child,
explain one more time, ma'am?
for example, if I have any sheet of paper, for example, as a teacher, if I have given the child, I have given for a child these words. Words are cat, mat, bat, fat. I ask the child to read the first word. What is this? Cat. I flip it over. I ask the child to write. Then I take it. I see whether the spellings are correct. Spelling is correct? Good. Now I ask him to write mat. M-at. M-at. Do a check. Both are correct? Yes, they're correct. The child does a self-assessment here. Okay, so this becomes my next way of introducing certain lessons to children. So this is where I ask the child to work more on spellings and writings for a child. Okay, so I begin with words, then I begin with sentences, then I can begin with paragraph and let the child start writing. If there's any difficult word, you can underline. Correct? So all of that. So every time that I introduce, I ask them to also cross-check if there is a sentence, is there a full stop? Is there a comma? Correct? So is there a question mark in that? So I have to reinforce all these punctuation marks in my spelling lessons also. So that helps me to work on it. To make it easier, what I do, I have to have a good script. What is script? What is script?
Story.
Everything should be planned
A
before.
story.
Everything should be planned. So that means I need to choose what kind of writing should I give. Okay. Should it be a flowy handwriting, cursive writing, not cursive writing? Is it only letters? Is it letters followed by words? Right? Because children are very sensitive. They are very observant and they are very tender. And they have a good flexibility of their hand also. So when everything is planned so well and it is scripted so well, it becomes easy. So if the child is not able to write what you have given, go back to sandpaper letters, go back to your movable alphabets, teach the children how the letter looks like, let them do right from the beginning, and then you can introduce the formal writing to children. Okay, from there, this covers your second part of your handwriting. So from the next class, from the next week, we get into the actual grammar. And these would be the set of materials that we would be learning in our further coming up classes. Okay, so this is a larger piece of information and learning that we do it in our Montessori classes. Okay, so this goes with your next lesson. So any doubts that you have it for today's exercise? So what were all the different exercises that we learned for today? We started with
Sorting, ma'am.
sorting the symbols. We started symbols based on what? We sorted the symbols based on our
Standing line, sleeping line.
Sandpaper letters.
So
Patterns.
we started sorting based upon what material? Sandpaper letters,
Sand
movable
patterns.
alphabets.
Movable
Sandpaper letters was on lines and curves. Movable alphabets was on position and placement. So I had grass letters, tall letters, and fall letters, right?
Correct.
The Depending on that, I could help my children to sort.
Yeah.
Then we got into writing onto paper.
Paper.
So different kinds of paper, blank paper,
Blank
line
paper,
paper, 4 lines.
ruling
Yes.
paper,
Yes.
unruled,
paper.
Then
check
we
paper,
moved
4-line
on to,
paper.
yes. Then we moved on to upper and the lowercase letters. Then we moved into capital letter, periods, comma, question mark. Then we got into a very, very important material, that's our transcription. Right? So transcription can be a homely saying, a riddle, a poem, anything it can be, right? Then we notice that the children have difficulties in writing the spellings. So that's when you start giving them the copy control cards. The child will be able to see, they can flip over and then they can write it and they can do a self correction for spellings. To have all good things, I need to also have a script. I need to choose what is my dominant script in my school that I'm going to be introducing. So when I introduce all these things, writing becomes easy for a child and the child becomes much more curious, or I can say creative in writing. Okay, that's for
Ma'am?
today's topic. Yes,
Ma'am, can we give dictation?
yes, you have to give dictation. It's not can, you have to give dictation. The
Yeah.
beginning of the day when you are working with children of N2, your day should start with dictation. Does the child know the letter sound? Okay, write letter A. The child should write letter A. What letter makes the sound D? Write that letter.
Yeah.
The child should write letter D. Okay, now write both upper and the lowercase letter D,
Letter D.
upper and the lowercase letter E. Okay, so you can always ask the children to write. Dictation is something which is very important for you. You need to know. Okay, that also gives you a good identification whether the child has learnt the material or not. Fine. Okay. So we have issued books for 5 students, I guess, for today. So the other 5 I have to be couriering. Instead of 17 materials, I received only 10. So we have raised a request. So again, depends on the priority of the registration and it will go according to it. So we've informed Mr. Sudev, we have received only 10 for today. Okay. So the first 10 students will be receiving the books. Okay. So I think Shanta would receive tomorrow. Okay, so the other students have already received. Thank you, guys. So I'll see you tomorrow, not tomorrow, the coming week. The next Tuesday, try to complete your assignments and all the very best. So thank you. And today we had with us Uma, Maunika, Rupam, Swati, Lakshmi, Aparna, then Varalakshmi, Deepti, Hamsa, Revati, Rekha, Shefali, Shweta Ramesh, Shweta Shiva, Sonali, Shravani, Swati, Uma, Vasanta Kumari, and me, myself, Divya. Okay, thanks for joining in for today's session. Loads of love. Take care, all of you. Lot of absentees. Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a great day, all of you. See you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so
Thank you very much.